Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I don't believe it's been a week already. The time is flying. That's insane. Today I've got another chapter for you, but also it's not a random one. I try to find something that again resonates with me at the moment and that I would like to also talk about. It is quite a short chapter, but I like the feeling and I like to talk about it today. Drum roll, anticipation. Okay, I should have done it a bit longer to actually, reflect the actual feeling. But yeah, so the chapter is called Anticipation. I even like the sound of it. Like, I like the word. It's so fun. I don't know. Alright, anticipation. And it also starts with a quote from a book, Wise Children by Angela Carter. "You just wait and see," said Grandma. The lights went down, the bottom of the curtain glowed. I loved it and have always loved it best of all, the moment when the lights go down, the curtain glows, and you know that something wonderful is going to happen. It doesn't matter if what happens next spoils everything, the anticipation itself is always pure. To travel hopefully is better than to arrive, as Uncle Perry used to say. I always preferred foreplay too. Well, not always. Angela Carter, Wise Children. Also, apologies for my voice. I've gotten semi-ill again. Maybe it also plays a role that it is morning and I just woke up half an hour ago. But anyhow, apologies for my voice not sounding as smooth as it sometimes does, I would guess. Right, carrying on with anticipation. Anticipation is a tiny theft of pleasure, a reckless spending of delights not yet owned. Until the mid-19th century, an anticipation was a sum of money spent before it was earned, an early payout on the dowry, an advance of next week's wages. Some emotions can be traced back to the weather and others to the landscape. Anticipation, however, is firmly embedded in the history of economics and exchange. This is such a new meaning for me. I had no idea that you can even... if I'm counting my money before I've gone to work and before I've actually gotten it and I'm thinking what I'm going to use it for. But I never seen like my thoughts about the money itself as anticipation. I guess it was just my rational planning of like money that I will earn because that's kind of how you do it, like if you even look for a job and you're like, okay, I'm going to be earning this much money, then I can use it for this and this, kind of. I guess it just depends on the amount of money that you earn, because if you earn more then you don't have to count and calculate it to the detail, but if you earn just the exact amount that you need, then it's just natural that you will be thinking about the money that you have not yet earned, really, in terms of what you will use it for. So I guess in my case, it's never been like a lot of money that I've been getting, from work. So for me, I just think I never saw it as anticipation of how I'm going to use the money. It's more of like, I'm going to use the money this and this way, and this is going to be fun, in terms of like, I'm going to go on this trip, I'm going to go to this place, or I'm going to like buy this, and this thing will be fun. Like, it's not about spending the money. I don't know, I feel like there is a little difference between the two, but I might be wrong and I might have actually been using it, but I never realized that I used anticipation as something that has to do with money. But it says here that it used to be only like economic term, or basically something in the context of economics and money, of economics and exchange. Perhaps it's this whiff of the scandalous, neither a borrower nor a lender be, which makes some adults firmly budget their children's expectations. Or perhaps it's just their familiarity with the effects of disappointment. Look forward to an event is one thing. Savouring in technicolor detail what will happen when the curtain goes up, however, is not for the faint-hearted. I want to remember this moment and like mark this moment about the faint-hearted. because I want to link anticipation to a different feeling, and I think this is really like a good point about being like weak-hearted. Right, so once again, because it was a hard sentence. Looking forward to an event is one thing. Savouring in technicolor detail what will happen when the curtain goes up, however, is not for the faint-hearted. In a delicious agony of anticipation, writes Carter, the sisters knew the curtain would soon rise, and then, what wonderful secrets would be revealed to us then? You just wait and see. For more on emotions and money, see gratitude. See also curiosity, hopefulness. So I just really found myself to like this feeling over the past couple of days, because I used to be, and I am, a person who daydreams a lot, right? And I imagine and create so many scenarios in my head and stories, and my imagination runs wildly, especially when it comes to like my life, relationships with people, some situations that I will be in. So I might not be the most creative person when I need to be, but when I have an upcoming event, I will have thought about it 1,000 of times before it actually happens. And for me, it was always something like bad, or something more disadvantaging, or something, just rather not really beneficial. Because the problem with this is it never, honestly, in my experience of daydreaming, of imagining, of expecting something, I on purpose, I'm not saying anticipating now, because if you anticipate, it's a different thing, and I'll come to that. But I was imagining and creating these stories and the situations where I would imagine what will happen in the back of my head, or literally in the same moment, knowing it won't be like this, because it was, Prince on a white horse kind of scenarios, and this is just so far from the truth, especially knowing the people. Like, it's not like I imagine something, or visualize something that will happen to me like in 20 years with a like mystical person, like with a friend that I don't yet have, with a partner, whoever. I imagined something like dialogue, some just situations, some interactions with people who I know, and who I know how they act. And I do realize that they don't and wouldn't act the way I prescribe them to. So in my scenario, I make them like a completely different person. And whilst I do realize that it is daydreaming and that it is probably not going to happen, still, obviously, because I imagine it and I say it maybe out loud even, we listen and we don't judge. My subconscious expects it to happen, because it has kind of already registered that it has happened. We have already reacted to the situation, and then when we have the same setting but the different interactions, we have this disalignment in our head. And it is always this disappointment. It can be, bigger or smaller, but it is always there, and it is always maybe not even registered like consciously, but you feel disappointed. You feel like something is wrong, something is off, because this was scripted differently. But obviously people don't have my script. And I think also, actually, this has led, I think, to so many conflicts in my life, because I would be angry, like I would be disappointed, which would make me angry and annoyed. I don't know, I feel like I'm speaking a bit of like in Freud terms, but my subconscious would be in disalignment with the reality, and my expectation would be in disalignment with reality. Or, well, maybe reality was in disalignment with my subconscious, the way the subconscious saw it, and subconscious would be angry with me and annoyed at me because like you gave us the wrong information, or like basically my subconscious that was expecting this person to act nicely to me, let's say, it would be not just not understanding like why they mean or why are they just neutral, and this would be perceived like, oh no, they're neutral, they are not nice, and they are not running to you and hugging you and just, you know, whatever I imagined, or, you know, this teacher acts differently, whatever. It's usually something about my friends, or yeah, that kind of stuff, or just how people would perceive me, how people would act around me when I come back from England, and, you know, just situations that will happen and that I just don't know anything about, and that I await, and my brain just can't shut up to not think about how it would go, because obviously there is there is infinite possibilities how the situation will go, as always, but because it's a fun situation and it's a situation that I'm expecting to happen, and that I could be anticipating, but I'm not anticipating it because I just trying to plan it, and I'm trying to like pre-script it and make a script for it, that I'm not anticipating it. I'm not in this feeling of anticipation. But right, we'll come back to that. I just want to finish my thought about the conflicts. Basically, what would happen, I would expect something to happen, and then my subconscious, or me, this whole system of my brain, of my mind, would be confused. Why is this happening the wrong way? Because it is not the way that I imagined it, that I expected it to happen. So it is wrong. This is not supposed to happen like this. I was told, says my subconscious, this would be like that. This person would say this and that. And then they don't. What? And so I would get angry and like, you know, resentful and just annoyed at people who didn't act following my script, which they were not even given. And this is just, and I don't realize it because I'm hurt, because I feel like something was promised to me and now people don't do it. Sometimes, like, there has been times where obviously people have promised something to me and they didn't do it, and then I think it's justified for me to expect something and to be, you know, annoyed and angry and sad and disappointed and hurt if that doesn't happen. The problem is that sometimes, often, I promise myself something that a person would do, but unfortunately, or actually luckily, I cannot script everyone's actions. Well, yeah, I guess luckily, because the world would be boring if I would screenwrite everyone's roles. And then basically I would just get angry at the person, and they would not even understand what's happening, what they did wrong. They just acted the way they are, the way they act in real life. And like, what is wrong? Literally, what's wrong? What have I done wrong? But the thing is, I can't even explain it because I don't even realize it myself. Like, I find a different reason. I'm like, yeah, you said this to me, and this is hurtful, and this, like, you know, touches on my trauma and triggers this and this and that. Even though it might not even be true, like, I just literally, so again, like, not realizing it, I just made it up to, like, explain why I'm angry, even though this is completely not true. Even though I'm literally angry because you did something that you were not supposed to do, which was not planned and which was not expected by my brain. And this is just so sad because I feel like now I don't want to say wasted, because it is never, whatever happens, I don't regret anything, and I don't want to see anything that I've done and that's happened as a waste or like as a wrong thing, because obviously I've learned from it, and I couldn't have been here without having made those, let's say, mistakes, or without having acted this and this way. And I also don't want to say like, yeah, it's all in the past, that's how I acted before and now I'm different, because that's not true. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. I think not, at least with like habits. I can call it habit that you've had, for your whole life. But at least I realize it now. I've always realized I was really, delusional often, and like dreamy. So like really inventing some scenarios, some situations, some stories that were not gonna happen, and that wouldn't. I mean, they could have, but it's not guaranteed. So rather not count on them. I think that's a difference, because that is not anticipation. That is expectation of a certain outcome. And if that outcome doesn't happen, again, I mean, I guess it's not 100% defined that if something doesn't happen that you were expecting to happen, that you will be extremely disappointed and your day will be ruined, right? So you can still adapt and adjust to whatever outcome actually happens, right? But for me, I guess, because also I don't do well with change of plans that is not dependent on me. I can change my plans like very randomly, very spontaneously, that's completely fine. But when I cannot influence and control whatever, really, I'm like, honestly, that's just one of my red flags, if you like, control issues. But if we're talking about plans and what's going to happen, like in this context, if I cannot influence, or if no choice is given to me and my like plan is being changed by someone else, I don't do well with that. That is just something that's still true for me. It's not like, yeah, it's in the past, I'm so like adaptable now and blah blah. But basically what I want to say is that you expect something and then it doesn't happen, it can still be perceived finely, like you can still be fine with it, but still it is not anticipation, because anticipation is in this moment when you are expecting something to happen, you expecting something to happen, right? So how I see it, I will go home, right, and I'll see my friends or like my old class, and I will come in, or maybe I won't come in, maybe they'll see me in what is it, in recreational room, whatever, first word that came to my mind. And it will be somehow, we don't know how it will go, but I am looking forward to it, and I want to know what will be then, but I don't expect anything to happen, anything in particular. I guess that's how it is, right? And I was just scripting it down to like, the thing is, I could have multiple different scenarios, multiple different ideas how it will go, but it was always very distinct, and I was not enjoying not knowing. I scripted it, and then I needed and I wanted to know how it will actually go, so I was waiting for it. I think anticipation is very close to waiting for something to happen, but with more like positive emphasis on the now of the waiting, because waiting has, like, you are experiencing it in the moment, but you are waiting for the outcome. And in anticipation, you are waiting, I feel like, for this mysterious something to happen, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it spoils the whole experience, how it said in the quote, right? But what matters is the now and not the actual outcome. So for me, what I really wanted to talk about is not really anticipation, now that I read about it and defined it and what I just said right now. But I think I started to see my daydreams and my imagination as not something bad. I just started to remind myself intentionally and consciously, when I start to imagine something, daydream, create some scenarios, some stories in my head, I started to like, stop, disclaimer, it will not be like this. And I just say it to myself and I repeat it if I start feeling like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. And then I pause and I say, stop, Tanya, this is just a cartoon. Like, we are watching a movie right now. This will not happen. But it is fun to think about some ideas that just, some scenarios. Also, it is so hard to suppress your imagination. It might sound like I think that I'm the only one like daydreaming and imagining some scenarios, but I can't say anything more than my experience, and I don't know how it is for everyone because obviously it's not something that I can, really see. And so that's why I'm speaking from my experience, but it may well be similar to some of you. Anyhow, I think that recently, literally the last couple of days, the thing is, a lot is coming up. So for me, I am expecting, what I'm expecting the most right now is finishing my exams. Literally in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks is my last exam, and then I'm going for one holiday, I'm going for another, like to another place, and then I'm going to another place, and it's also fun and it's also exciting and I'm really looking forward to it. But I think it also reminds me of what I said, I think it was last episode actually, where I was talking about homesickness and I was talking about moving towards or moving away from. And I said that I'm really looking forward to basically what's going to happen in summer. That I sometimes forget that the here and now, I also enjoy it. It's not like live in the moment because you have to, but it's more of like I actually like this place and I like some things about this place where I am right now. And this kind of combines well or fits together well with the idea of either awaiting, expecting, let's say, my trip to Spain, or anticipating it, because anticipation is more, again, present time centered for me, or like present time based. And if I'm anticipating it, the next 2 weeks, I will be enjoying being in the 2 weeks before I go to Spain. And I will enjoy the waiting for Spain and like this feeling of finally having finished all your exams and going away for a holiday. This is the feeling like, wow, and it's just such a fine line now that I talk about it, especially. It's just so hard, I feel like, to really distinguish and define those different feelings, and also in your head, and like to, I don't know, in your soul and your feeling, what is it, like the feeling system, to really distinguish between whether you're feeling excitement or whether you're waiting something or like expecting a certain, things that you will do that. Because obviously, I don't have even when you have a plan like per day, per hour, you can't know how it is going to be, especially if you go to like a new place and not like, okay, you never know it. Even if I know, okay, I'll go to work and I have these working hours and I'm going to have these and these like duties, I cannot be sure and I cannot know how this day is going to go, because there's just extraneous variables. In some cases there is more extraneous variables like people who come, but in some cases still, whatever you do, you can't know how it's going to go. It's just sometimes it's more certain, sometimes it's less certain, but still you can't predict it unless you just fucking future reader. But I'm not. God, I used to wish I could see the future, or I could read people's minds, and then at some point I just knew about myself I couldn't, because I would be too curious to read someone's mind. The problem is, again, I would be expecting, even if I say now, yeah, no, I don't expect anything anymore, blah blah, no, like subconsciously you do still have kind of like because you can't live and you can't like communicate with people and interact with people without assuming something that they have in their head, especially because we all also judge people based on our experience and based on our like schemas that we have of the world and that we construct based on interactions with people. And if someone fits in your schema, let's say they said something, I don't know, just basic, like person says I love you, and you've put them in the schema of like, okay, they said I love you, so they probably think I'm pretty, right? Or they think I'm pretty all the time. But then if someone, like, if it's not confirmed, because you can't live without assuming something, because then you would be, I don't know, I want to say you would be really anxious. Like, just because why I paused is assuming something about people and then usually being disappointed doesn't sound like very calming thing, but maybe because we don't really get disappointed all the time. You know, like I don't always find out what the person actually thinks. So I can just live with having my schema and my idea of this person and their thoughts, right, for a long, long time and never really find out that it was completely wrong. And that gives me more security and stability and confidence for my actions, because if I think that they think this and this, then I know how to act. And I don't know how they perceive it, because in their head, they also have a schema about me, which my actions probably fit into. Maybe sometimes not, but our schemas and our ideas of each other and of our relationship might be completely different. But usually, because someone knows me and then I do another thing that just adds to this picture of me, sometimes obviously can be broken, but I guess the more you know about a person and the longer you've known the person, the harder it is to really completely break a schema. It will probably just like, not a schema, it's like a picture of a person. Yeah, I don't think it's called schema really, but it will probably like be readjusted. But it doesn't matter. What I want to say is you always have assumptions. Bro, what was I talking about before? Oh god. Okay, right. I was talking about wanting to read people's minds. But yeah, then obviously you will have some assumptions and then you will be disappointed. But how we live now without being able to read someone's mind is that we have these assumptions that could have been broken by like reading someone's mind and by actually knowing what they think. But because we can't do it, we may live in this idea and it's in this illusion that we understand and know the person without actually knowing them. But they also have this idea and somehow it fits together and somehow we communicate and we interact. This is just basic. This is for everyone. Like, we don't actually know. That's so interesting, I think. So I talk to someone and I'm like, okay, I guess we're on the same page. And they think the same thing, but we might be thinking completely different things. But still, like, because they are fine with what they think about me, which might not be completely true, which may completely be not true. And I'm fine with my idea of them. And then we keep interacting, and unless something happens that breaks the whole picture, then you will just keep on going like this without really knowing each other, maybe. You know, and that's just so insane. So at some point I was just like, yeah, no, actually I would not want to read people's minds because I just couldn't. I would read everyone's minds and it would break my picture of people, even where it wouldn't be necessary. You know, it would have been fine to just live in this illusion, let's say. It would have been better for everyone. It's not like we're lying to each other. It's just that we have different schemas and experiences and we cannot 100% understand each other and 100% know how we are both, right? But I have my idea of this person and they have their idea of me, and this is fine, right? So you never know the outcome of a day, of whatever, really, of nothing. You don't know anything because you can't read the future. And I think it used to stress me out, kind of, like, not straight away like, shit, I don't know how it's gonna be, but more in levels, in layers. So I would expect something to happen. Like I would expect an event, and then I would try to predict how it will go, because it gave me anxiety. Like I don't want to say anxiety, because anxiety, actually I want to read about anxiety at some point, but it's a long chapter and I was not in the mood to read a long chapter today and make a billion mistakes again. I don't want to say anxiety, but probably it made me internally nervous and unsafe of what's gonna happen. So I try to obviously think of an outcome, like how something is gonna go, and then I would imagine it and prepare myself, because obviously then I can, actually daydreaming has been proven to be a good thing for you. Well, actually, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not completely sure it has been proven, but basically the idea is that daydreaming is beneficial for us, because what it is us replaying some situations that have happened before, or theorizing about something that could happen later on, and then it allows you to kind of reflect on what has happened and plan ahead what you could do differently, how you could act in a similar situation or in a different situation. So it's kind of like your own mental debrief of what's happened, and readjusting maybe your future planned behavior based on your new experiences and your new knowledge that you've gained from this situation. Let's say you interacted with someone, I don't know. I sometimes, when I explain, I feel like I'm over explaining and that it's actually quite clear, but I treat my listeners as just dummies. But sometimes I don't like how detached and general it all sounds, and I really like examples. That's why. But yeah, you just talk to someone and then you just sit and think, no, I should have said a different thing. This would have been better. And this is thought to not be necessarily bad and negative, and don't dwell on the negative and don't think about this like it's already happened, but actually as something that can teach you and help you act better, let's say, or more efficiently next time. And this is evolutionary beneficial, and evolutionary, it makes sense to try to make your interactions or whatever, your behavior, more efficient and more logical. So following the same principle, basically my brain was like, okay, I don't know what's gonna happen, let's think about different possible outcomes and prepare for each one of them. So if they say this, I will respond with this. Or let's say I don't know who's gonna pick me up from the airport, and then I need to think of different scenarios, of different possibilities, who will be there, so that I know how to act. Because, well, yeah, actually, because what? Because I care about my appearance and my appearance to people, how people perceive me and how people see me and how I act around people. So I guess it all comes down to insecurity in my natural response. So I need to prepare, and I need to rehearse internally, mentally. I need to rehearse some ways in which I can act based on different possible outcomes. And then I have it's like when you read possible questions for the exam, and then you have different possibilities. Okay, what if they ask this? And then you go through essay plan. And then what if they ask this? And then you go through essay plan for that question. And for me the same, I just do it mentally, and I do it a lot. I mean, I don't want to see it as a negative thing just because that's how my brain is wired, I guess. Some people do it less, some people do it more. And I feel like I've been getting better at it, because obviously if we link it to insecurity in my the way I naturally act, I don't want it to be I want it to not happen then, because I don't want to be insecure in however I act naturally, and I would actually want to plan ahead a bit less. And I feel like I've been getting better at it. Maybe I was just more distracted by some things, so I didn't have time to daydream. Or maybe let's just see it as an in a good light. I've been just getting more confident, and now I care less about how I'll act. But I have been daydreaming, but I guess now, like I said, I just remind myself, okay, this is just a movie. Let's think about it. Let's not shut down our imagination because this is so hard. It is impossible. It's like a river that broke through a dam or like a lake. You know, what is it, like a water saving system, and it broke through a dam, and you try to fix it with like tape, you know, when you try to like stop it, and then maybe there is like at first like a little hole, and you try to fix it with a tape, and then it keeps breaking through in other places, and you just keep trying to fix it, but it's never gonna work. It's just gonna, the more you fix it with a tape, it breaks through a tape, and then it becomes more. It's a bad analogy, and it's a bad metaphor, but you get the point. Like, the more you try to shut it down, the more it comes through, and that's annoying. So I think now I'm trying to make use of it, to make use of my imagination that is there anyways. Like, I think about people, I think about different situations anyways. Like, I can't do anything about it really, and why not just let it go then? Just like let it flow, but just interpret it differently. Not like, okay, I am seeing the future right now, and this is what's gonna happen, and we're gonna be expecting it to happen, but as something like, okay, cool, like this is, you know, AI movie based on characters that do exist, because it's not like a cartoon that like those characters never existed. No, it is reality inspired, artificial intelligence created film, and let's watch it. It's interesting, it's entertaining, and sometimes with special effects, like feelings that it evokes, but it's not gonna happen. It's just not. It's not like it might, it's not. Because even if something very similar happens, something will be different. It's impossible to see. Like, I'm not gonna account for some divine occurrences of you seeing the actual, what's actually gonna happen, because this is just a tiny, just unbelievably tiny percent of cases, if it actually happens. You know, like deja vu kind of thing, I guess, or like, I don't really know. Deja vu is such an interesting thing. It's like, I would really, really like to know what it is. It's like a bug in your brain. So, you know, when you feel like the situation has already happened to you in the past, but it hasn't. Like, something in the moment, you just feel like this has already happened. Like, we've sat like opposite from each other in this like location, and maybe you don't recognize the location and like the restaurant, let's say, but you recognize, and like it seems familiar how you take, let's say, your fork, right, like chopsticks. It's just, I'm describing a moment where I felt it like a month ago or something, and you feel like it's already happened to you, but it hasn't. Like, that's the first time that you hear it. Might have happened, you know, something similar might have happened, like you've sat, you know, opposite from this person, but when you say it to another person, like, oh, I'm having a deja vu. Also, guys, if someone says I'm having a deja vu, do not say, oh, it hasn't happened. Like, I know it hasn't. I know we are here for the first time, but it's not something to like deny, or something to, I think, also analyze, because it's just something. Deja vu in itself, I think, I don't know if I read it somewhere, or if it's just like a common, you know, conception about basically what deja vu is, that it's like a bug in your brain. It's like a faulty thinking that, you know, some wires just like touch each other that are not meant to touch, and you have this like little shortage in a circuit, you know, and that's why you feel like you've had this already. I don't know what to really reply, like, yeah, fun, cool. I'm not, like, you know, it's like when you sneeze, you don't, like, your friend doesn't say, oh yeah, no, you're not ill, you know, or something, or you, when you say, yo, I'm getting ill, and no one said like, yeah, no, I don't think you are. It might be just dust. I mean, yeah, if people say it, then they're weird. So basically, on déjà vu, if I'm having a déjà vu, I don't care if we haven't been here. I realize that I'm just sharing with you my feeling in the moment. You don't have to reply anything. It just happened to me a lot, and I feel like this needs to be clarified. But what I meant, not really déjà vu, I meant like what is it, like when you actually have a dream, let's say, and then something happens. But yeah, that's just, again, minority, like tiny, tiny, tiny minority of cases. And in other cases, you really cannot predict what's gonna happen. So to just finish it off, kind of like summarize it, I think there is kind of like a gradual system of like, it is not, how do I say it? These feelings, like expecting a certain outcome, like what I said about my daydreaming and expecting people to act according to my script, right? This is like the end of it. So this is like one end of this line, of this gradient line. Then there is something else. There is like this daydreaming that I'm trying to have now, where I imagine things, but I realize they're not gonna happen. But I'm still more in the future. You know, like I am more, when I'm in these thoughts, I place myself in this future timing, and I don't know how to explain it. I expect this moment, but I also just imagine, I fantasize without expecting it, which is already more like beneficial for my health, at least, because coming back to the faint-heartedness, yeah, so if I expect something to happen and then it doesn't, I get annoyed, frustrated, and I really fuck up a lot of relationships with people. So actually at this point I want to thank people who I expected a lot from and who just acted the way they did. You know, and I would just get so mad and so annoyed and frustrated at people because they didn't act the way I expected them to. And I must have hurt them as well, just because of the way I acted. Annoyed and frustrated, and like, why the fuck did you do this? Because I was so sure that they are hurting me and they are like breaking their promises that I gave to me in my head. And I would tell everyone, like, they hurt me so much. Like, genuinely, I was so convinced that they either did it on purpose, whatever they did, or they said they would do something but they didn't do it. Like, why? How did I deserve this? Whereas actually they didn't promise me anything, and it was me who was unreasonably like angry at them and frustrated and mad, and I would act mad and annoyed. And at this point, again, thank you to people who I acted disappointed towards when you didn't actually promise me anything, and who still are by my side and who still talk to me, because why would you do that? Not to say like, you know, I'm so unworthy of anything, but it's just crazy to me also that a lot of times I acted so unreasonable, and with no explanation I would just get mad or annoyed. And thank you, people who put up with this. Right, this was a little sentimental thanking. Right, and then we're going further down the line of this gradient of feelings, and then I feel like there is something else, like the third stage, and then there is anticipation, where you, like, obviously all is kind of like directed to something in the future, but in anticipation you are the most present time based. So daydreaming, you are fully away from reality, you are fully away from now, and you are completely with your mind, with your fantasy, with your imagination, you are completely in the future event that will happen. And with anticipation, you are fully in now with your mind, but with your like feeling, it is kind of like linked, or kind of maybe, you know, tied to something that will happen. But really with your, I don't know, physical and like mental, you are here. I guess this is the difference. This is the main difference, where your like mind is actually located in the moment of, let's say, thinking about what's gonna happen, right? But I feel like what I want to say is that I just feel like it's been so, split in parts and interrupted by my other thoughts. But what I'm trying to say is that I think that anticipation and daydreaming is kind of like they form a line of the feelings that are directed towards some future event, but that there is different extent to which we are either in now and in here, or that we are in the future with our brain and with our mind and with our imagination, right? And I don't know the names of feelings, and I don't know if there's actually feelings identified on this line, but that's my thought. And I think my goal and my wish would be to go as far as possible from daydreaming to anticipation. And I like daydreaming, right? Again, it might be beneficial for you in some contexts. So I don't want to say like, yeah, daydreaming is awful, let's all only anticipate. But in general, like, I want to reduce the amount of daydreaming and increase the amount of anticipation, however, still have a little bit of everything, because it is different. I'm not going to repeat myself what the difference is. I think it's all good for you, but in certain amounts. Like, ice cream is also good for you, but you still probably should eat more vegetables, because more vegetables is good than more ice is better than more ice cream. But you need to have all of it for a balance and for a good life. So that's the point. And anticipation is definitely linked to daydreaming, but it's complicated, and I don't know myself how completely it is linked. Thank you very much for listening. It was a very interesting episode. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And now I need to run to work. Thank you very much. Have a good week. Have a good day. Have a good life. Everything. I feel amazing. And I hope you do too. Right. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.